first of all, thank you all for coming. It's been a while since we've had in-person meetings, and it's great to see everybody that have been here before, and we've got some new people visiting, which is wonderful. So what we're going to do today is I asked our members to send me some photos. What I did is I sorted through those photos to organize them to show various concepts on how to take better travel pictures and pictures in general. So as long as this technically works, Neil, it did not advance. Okay, let's there. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, we have our first technical difficulty. So what I've done is I've organized these photos under these 4 general topics. Like the first one is how to add interest to your photo, etc. And what you'll find with me is I don't believe in reading the slides to each and every one. So my comments will probably be a little different. And if for any reason you say, would you please read, I will read. Let's see if we still have technical. No. Okay. So the first tip is basically to include detail or something in the foreground. And the advantage of doing that is it adds sort of a sense of depth, and it makes the picture seem more 3-dimensional than just a 2-dimensional shot. So here we go. The first picture was taken by Annie, and you'll notice that we have the water and the rock in the foreground. And to me, this picture seems to have a lot more depth than if she had started the picture, the bottom of the picture would have just started with sea stacks. A couple more pictures, again by Jim and Gail, all of which start with things that were closer to the camera, and then the subject matter is further back in the picture. And this group of photos I included for a special reason. So Craig's photo is obviously a landscape photo, right? So it's a big, broad shot in Yosemite, of Yosemite Valley. And again, you can see what the impact is of stuff in the foreground. But Jeff's picture is a close-up. And that picture, the subject matter is more or less the flowers, right? But notice how he put succulents in the foreground to, again, add depth and sort of create more interest in the photo. So we're going to go to our next tip, which is leading lines. This is something that photographers have used for a really, really long time. And it basically leads you into the photo. Again, we begin with a photo that Annie took in Monument Valley. This was one of the trips that we took as a camera club. And I'll simply mention, historically, twice a year, we have taken longer trips that last, say, 5 or 6 days. And we've gone to lots of places that at least I would have never gone to by myself. But notice how the sand leads you into the photo. And of course, she also put some bushes in there that are foreground things. This picture that Jeff took, again, in Death Valley, it's interesting. If you haven't been to Death Valley, there's an area called Badwater Basin. And in Badwater Basin, what it does is every now and then it fills with water. And when the water evaporates, it leaves behind salt crystals. And the salt crystals are what these formations are that you see in the foreground. I love Neil's picture because Neil obviously thought that everyone would have a very difficult time understanding leading lines. So we have fence, we have rocks, and then we have a path. if for some reason you're not quite sure what a leading line ought to be. And of course, Betty wasn't sure we'd understand, so that's most of the picture is her leading line. Okay, my next tip is to look for symmetry and repetitive patterns. And this is something that you don't see quite as often. And it's not quite as common, but I think they make some just really kind of wonderful, interesting pictures. For example, Jim's picture. Doesn't that have just a certain feel and just, you know, I think if you can find symmetry or repetitive patterns, it's just really can be a special picture. You know, Craig, we have the leading line of the road, and then we also have the symmetry of the trees over the road. Whoops, technical difficulty. And then Don's picture, again, he wasn't sure we would understand repetitive patterns or symmetry, so he decided to put a whole bunch in there. But what I find interesting in this photo is the human, the person that adds a sense of scale to the photo. Viv, you know, when I saw Viv's photo, I thought to myself, well, normally when you see a tall building, what do? You back up to get it all in the shot, right? Well, what did Viv do? He went up close to the corner of the building, which gave you a symmetry on each side of that corner. And he looked up, which we'll talk about kind of looking at pictures or where you take them from a different vantage point. But again, doesn't that add a real sense of height to the picture? And Jeff, yours was basically the Disney? Yeah, Disney, the trip that we took there one day. Okay. So now what we're going to do is just capsulize what we've seen, which is detail in the foreground, leading lines, and symmetry. And we're going to move on to something that I think is important. And that is for the photo to have a clear focal point. And one of the keys is keep it simple. And, you know, it sounds obvious, and I'm not going to show a lot of pictures because it's a pretty obvious concept. But again, both Graham and Don's picture are simple. It's clear what the subject matter is, and it doesn't take a lot of imagination. So what we're going to do is now we're going to talk about kind of how to really, in more detail, make the subject of your photo stand out. And it's an area where I'm going to spend a little more time because I think a lot of times we overlook some of these concepts. And so I've listed 4 items here that are important. And believe it or not, these items are important because back when we lived in caves for thousands and thousands of years, and we hunted animals, and animals hunted us, we kind of got these things coded in our mind, and we don't think about it. So, for example, a lion a half a mile away is a lot different than a lion 3 feet away. So size counts. Do you know what I mean? And if you think when you're out looking for lunch and you look at a bright area, it's much easier to see if lunch might be there, right? Than to try and find it in the shadows. So our eyes naturally will go to bright areas first and then wander off to the dark areas. But because lunch might reappear in that bright area, our eyes keep going back to those bright areas. color. I want to tell you a story about that. I went to kind of a mountain lion, cougar rehab thing with a bunch of people. What I noticed was every exhibit we went to, those mountain lions only looked at one person. And I said to the owner, is she just more attractive than the rest of us? What's going on here? I don't understand. And he goes, notice the red on her jacket. They're thinking blood. And again, it goes back where our eyes are attracted to color before we will look at things that are gray or black and white. So what we're going to do is I'm going to flip that coin over. And I'm going to talk about, if you want to have a good photograph, make sure you don't have distractions in the background. So make sure there aren't really bright areas in the picture you take in the background. Make sure that there aren't bright colors in the background. Make sure that your subject matter is large. You know, don't walk up, take a picture of mountains, and when you look at the picture, there are little white dots on the horizon, right? So if you run into situations where you have this problem, there's kind of only three ways to solve it. One is you either change where you're taking the picture from to change the angle, you wait for a distraction to pass, or after you get all said and done, okay, you try and fix it either with the software that comes with the camera on your phone or on your computer. So we're going to play a couple little games here. And what I want to ask you to do is, when I tell you to, I'd like you to close your eyes. I'm going to have you keep them closed until I ask you to open them. And then when you open your eyes, just ever so briefly, glance at the photo that's on the screen and then close them right away, because I don't want your eyes to go all over that picture. I want you to just see if you can look so quickly that you only see one thing. And I'm going to then say, well, what did we see? Okay, so if you'll play with me, let's close our eyes. Nothing bad will happen. Okay, open them very quickly and close them. Okay, now ask yourself, what did I see? Okay, open your eyes. Did you see the white car first? Yeah, isn't that amazing? Our eyes caught that car before anything else. Okay? All right, we're not done. You get to close your eyes again. Okay, close your eyes again. Okay, quickly open them and close them. Okay? Think about what you saw. Now open your eyes. Okay. Now, what I did with the car is I toned down so that the brightness of the car was more or less the same brightness as the rest of the photo. Did you see color next? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So again, what we want to do with what we've just figured out is we want to make sure our subject of our photo is brighter and, if possible, more colorful than the background. So this photo, what did I do? I eliminated color because I wanted the people to see the person. Okay. I brightened the person, and I also cropped it down so that the person size-wise is larger. Now, again, I'm not saying what I did is right, wrong, or indifferent, but I think you can begin to understand why you do that. Okay, so let's just go through some photos. Now, somebody said wine and cheese. I think this is the perfect photo for that, don't you? Okay. So when we look, when we look at this photo, let's just focus on the grapes. What's brightest in this photo? The grapes, are they not? And you'll notice in the background, clearly the sun was shining and probably brighter than the grapes. But what I'm going to guess Neil did is he reduced the brightness of what was in the background, and he also may have desaturated the colors some. So now the grapes really pop out. Does this make sense? Good. Okay. Glenn's picture. Normally the sky would be very, very bright and the leopard would almost be in shade, would it not? With the looking up like that, the camera would expose for the sky. But what did Glenn do? He made sure the sky was toned down and the leopard stood out in terms of brightness. Of course, with Don's picture, it's pretty obvious, right? The background is black. Okay, we're going to go to the next thing. Have you ever met someone who doesn't look at you, right? You hi. They look down at the floor or up at the sky. You go to shake their hands. They don't really look at you. It's very hard to feel connected to that person. And that concept carries over to your photos. You want to make sure that you capture the eyes, because that most of the time will make your photo much better. If I hadn't captured the eyes of this tuk-tuk driver, would the photo have the same sense? You know he is not having a good day, do you not? And the woman who had drawn water from the well, while maybe because she's smaller, because I wanted to show some of the surrounding area, the environment, right? The eyes might not have been important. But to me, I looked at her as I was walking down the street, simply held my camera. She ultimately looked at this weirdo pointing something at her. And when she did, I clicked the picture. Do you think this lion is saying, "Are you my lunch today?" Okay. And Jeff's picture of, again, he captured the eyes. And again, Annie and Glenn's pictures, they capture the eyes. Very important to do. All right. I wish all pictures you could capture emotion. No, let me say that differently. I wish I had the skills to do pictures that always captured emotion. But for me, they're hard to do, but sometimes they happen. So for example, is there any doubt that the girl on the right is having a bad hair day and her friend is attempting to cheer her up? Jim's picture, it seems to me those bags have got to be pretty doggone heavy when you look at that hefty guy and he's off the ground. One of the other things I'd know about Jim's picture is notice how much more information is in that picture. Jim chose not to just show the guys lifting the bags, but more of the environment, right? So your eyes do spend more time searching around that picture looking than they do, say, the picture on the left with the two girls in India. Again, Glenn's picture of the animal, the baby, taking food out of its mom's mouth, and Gail's picture of the leopard looking off into the distance. And is there any doubt that Graham's picture, those two guys are committed to going as fast as they can? Now we're going to turn to composition. There are lots of rules of composition. And again, rules are made to be broken, so you don't always do them. I only wanted to include just a couple rules of composition. One is the horizon, keep it straight. There's nothing worse than the ocean pouring off the left side of your picture, right? And most cameras today, you can put a level in them so that you know your picture will be level on the screen. And you only need to do that if you don't post-process it, because in post-processing, you can also level. The most common rule of pictures is the rule of thirds. And what it means is you divide the screen horizontally and vertically with 2 lines each, 2 horizontal, 2 vertical, and where they cross, those are key areas to put your image, your subject matter, and you can have it in one or multiple. So Neil's picture in Death Valley and his picture in Monument Valley illustrate that. Jeff's picture illustrates that. And Don's picture. And Don's illustrates one more concept I'll mention, which is if the sky is interesting, include more. And if the sky is just a bland blue or gray color, include less. Remember Vib's photo of the building? Well, if you ever are at places where people take pictures and you watch, what do? They walk up, they're at eye height, they click the photo, they move on. We see the world, whether we're 5 feet tall or 6 feet tall, at the height of our eyes. And so it's important that when you take a photo, that you try and take it from a little different angle or place. It's particularly important that when you take pictures of animals or people, that you take it at their eye level. And I want to illustrate that. So Gail's photos here, they wouldn't have the same feel and sense if you were looking down at the top of their heads, would they? As they do when you're taking them at the level that they're at. My pictures of the owl and the pelican, again, you know, being at the level of your subject is important. Photographers love a couple times a day. The golden hour, which happens in the morning and in the evening. And what happens is as the sun sets or rises, it passes through more of the Earth's atmosphere and it makes the light kind of magical. And I'm sure everybody here understands that, but I just wanted to show a few pictures that if these pictures were taken at midday, they would not have the same sense or feel that they have taken at sunrise or sunset. And if you're either early or late, sometimes taking pictures just before the sun rises or just before the sun sets is important. And you'll notice that I included more pictures in this category than the other categories I talked about. And that's because that's when photographers take pictures, is during the golden hour. They are your very, very best time. So let's kind of go back through. To add some interest and a sense of depth, foreground, leading items, symmetry and repetitive patterns. Make sure you have a clear subject matter in your photos, which means keep them simple and watch the size of your subject. Try and avoid bright lights and bright colors that are in the background and aren't on your subject. Think about the rule of thirds and keeping the horizon straight, taking a picture from a different angle. If you can, try and find something that touches us emotionally. And the golden hour is your very, very best friend. I joined Camera Club when we bought. I knew absolutely nothing about photography other than I had snapped some photos of family and friends and when you're on vacation, right? To me, what this club has done is it has caused me to visit some amazing places that I would not have gone to without this club. I've made new friends, and I've actually had to use that old brain, no matter how small it might be, to figure out not only how to take pictures, but most importantly, what to do with them after I had taken them, to edit them, to make them a better photo. Before I leave, for those of you who say, oh, well, I'm really more of an artist type person than I am a photographer, I want you to understand, we're invading that area. As photographers, we now can easily process our photo to imitate art. And Ernie, raise your hand, Ernie. Ernie is a master at this, and this is a photograph that you're looking at there, and it was made from these 11 other photos that he took and put together. This slide has a few photos that are very artistic, and they don't exactly look just like a photo, but they all began as a photograph. So if you're interested on the artistic side, with the way you can process photos now, you can, in fact, imitate art. Okay, it's time for me to say goodbye. Jeff, you're on. Okay.
Did you want to talk about the gardens?
Okay, well, tomorrow we are having a photo shoot. We're going to Morton's botanical garden. If you are a member, obviously, you're more than welcome to come. We hope you will. And if you're not yet a Camera Club member, but you're interested in joining, you can join us on that shoot as well. What we're going to do is meet right around 7 o'clock, just a few minutes after, in the parking lot across from the HOA building. So it's not over here, it's over in phase 1. And we will carpool to the location. We'll spend as much time there as we want taking photos. They've agreed to open it early for us. Tripods are welcome, and they charge a $5 fee to get in, and that's what they're going to charge each of us to be able to take our picture, nothing more, nothing less. So.
And it'll be close by, we're there, we can do everything we want to do.
We can do everything we want to do, and we might even go out to eat for lunch or whomever, depending upon how much time it takes. It's whatever we want to do.
And do we have a rough idea of how many people?
I told them 10 to 12, but I think, okay, how many? I can't tell on Zoom. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Jeff, are you going to go? No, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, we got 10 here, so probably 10's a good guess.
Pretty good guess.
Okay, Jeff, you're up.
I found you had to click that. would you be able to send your presentation?
I think Neil is recording it and it's going to be on the website.
Okay. No.
Or no, on the Zoom site, on the Zoom site.
I'd like to make a quick comment. That slide up there that you're looking at, Stephen just started doing this kind of work. I mean, he constantly says he's a novice, and he's pretty much time-wise a novice. Look at the work that he can do. Amazing. And he's not here, so I sent him an email with this picture. Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay. So since we opened this up to the community, and we do have new members in the Camera Club as well, I figured it would be a good opportunity to talk about the Camera Club and to tell you what we're all about. Now, we actually have a mission statement, and here it is. Sun City Shadows Hills Camera Club's mission is to provide a venue for residents to share their photographic experiences, knowledge, and enthusiasm with each other. The club is open to everyone from beginners to advanced users who want to actively participate in improving skills and expanding knowledge. To do this, to facilitate this, we hold monthly meetings, and now finally we get to have another meeting in person. We present educational videos and programs, invite guest speakers, participate in photo sharing slideshows, offer photographic field trips like Paul's talking about tomorrow, and offer workshops for hands-on learning. So the last 21 months have been an adjustment to us all, and we had to sort of regroup and make some changes into the way things we were doing. In late March of 2020, we stopped holding in-person meetings because the whole community shut down as far as using the clubhouses. And so we came up with an alternative plan as to how we continue meeting. And we started meeting over Zoom, so having video conferencing meetings. And this began as a series of what we called sip-in chairs. So since we were in our own homes, it was an opportunity to get a beverage of your choice and connect in via Zoom. And then we could share photos with each other, we could socialize, and we could educate each other on various post-processing software that was available. I know I, for one, ended up buying an awful lot of software that I would not have otherwise been exposed to if we hadn't have done this. And so that's good and bad, yeah. Okay. But so if that's on the bad side, on the good side, this really allowed us to keep up our interest in photography and learn new things and keep it going during the summer, which is normally a pretty quiet period for us. When we were only doing in-person meetings, we sort of shut things down after May and we didn't meet in the summer, and it wasn't until October that we were getting together again. Now, over the past 2 summers, we've continued to meet basically every week over Zoom and participate and keep motivated with our photography. So that's been a great thing. After a while, it became clear that there were people who were interested in doing more beginning things with post-processing. And so we added a Wednesday afternoon meeting where people who are new to post-processing could get together, and it was led by one of our other members who taught people how to do various post-processing. And you'll find that we tend to like acronyms. And so that meeting got the acronym of EPP, Elemental Post-Processing. And as I wrote here, it's focused on beginning to more advanced post-processing, primarily using Photoshop elements, although other software, of course, is available. When we do these Zoom meetings, we can record them, and we do record them as we are recording this one today. And then we send out a link for people to view it because not everyone's able to attend every meeting. And so you can watch those replays, but we only have enough space to hold a handful of those replays. So after a few weeks, the older replays drop off and you've only got the newer ones available. So when we've had members present interesting topics and teach each other about things, we can take those recordings and edit them down. And we've now put them on a YouTube channel so that they're available forever to anyone who wants to look at them, including, people who aren't members of the club. If you want to go and look at them, all you have to do is go to YouTube and search for a user named Cameron Klube, who is our representative for the Camera Club, and then you'll find all the videos that are available there. Okay. Now that we're able to meet in person, our activities and our schedule is changing a little bit. So the second Wednesday of each month is what we call our main meeting. And so I'm hoping that's what it's going to be from here on going out. On the second Wednesday of the month, we'll have a main meeting in person with topics to be determined. And in addition, we'll have field trips like Paul's arranging. Hopefully we get to have one a month. There are other trips that we do typically twice a year, which are bigger trips to faraway places. Well, places within about a day's drive. So places like Yosemite, Death Valley, Moab, the California coast. These are all places that we've gone. And so various members in the club will get together and arrange that. It's not a Sun City Shadow Hills sanctioned thing. It's just people who happen to live here getting together and going on these trips. But it's been great for all of us. We've had a great time, those of us who have partaken in it. And we've gotten some wonderful pictures as a result. In addition to the in-person meetings, we're going to continue our Zoom meetings, though not during the second week of the month, because we have the in-person meeting during that week. So on those other weeks of the month, there will be the Wednesday meeting, the EPP meeting. On Friday, there will be the Zoom meetings. As you may notice, not everyone is back to Sun City Shadow Hills yet, so we still have snowbirds who are away. They'll be able to participate in those other meetings on Fridays. And during those meetings on Fridays, what are called sip and share meetings, we have a sort of rotating group of activities that we do. It might be photo share on one week. It might be, we might have a monthly theme. So for example, this past month, the theme was, there were two themes. One was shadows, the other was small. So we are encouraged to take pictures adhering to those themes. Then we shared with each other what those pictures were, both what came out of the camera and what we did after post-processing it. In addition, here's one of our acronyms, is SIP. This time not having to do with the drink. This stands for Same Image Processing. And during this activity, what we do is one of our members offers up one of his or her photographs and says, how would you, the rest of the people in the club, how would you go about processing this picture? And that provides, ways for people to be creative and show what you might do with a different picture. And so we had one of these past Friday, and I wanted to show that as an example because it fits in with Paul's theme of how do you make travel photos better, because you can do that not only with the hints that Paul gave, but also with various post-processing techniques and with your own creativity. So this is the picture that our host, Don Paskowitz, chose, one of his pictures from England. And he asked all of us to take this picture and go about post-processing it. And I'll point out a couple of things in this picture that you might think about, because you'll see this in what the people in the club chose to do in their processing. So the picture out of camera looks like this. If I look at it directly, I notice that the main subject, which is the bridge in the distance, is a little bit dark. So the picture could be made a little bit brighter, and certainly that bridge could be made brighter. Whenever you have a picture out of camera, you're going to look at it and say, do I want everything that I captured in camera, or do I want to crop this picture? Is it fine on the left? Is it fine on the right, on the bottom, on the top? Do I want to move any of those things in? And are there any distractions in the picture that might get in the way? And so if you notice my little dot, you might notice in the background, there is a crane in the background. That's kind of a distraction. If you could remove that, that might be nice. There are people in the image on the sides, the banks of the river. Are those people good to have in the picture, or might it be nice to remove them? Are these floats on the side of the bank down here, are those a good thing to leave in or a bad thing? Okay, so let's take a look at what everyone decided to do, and you can see what they thought. This is Betty Todd's vision for this picture, and I really liked that. It really impressed me. Clearly, the focal point in this image is the bridge, and she made that the focal image by brightening up the bridge, darkening down the rest, and giving this sort of Rembrandt-esque type lighting to the whole picture. And it really gives you a different feeling to the picture. Certainly makes it feel older. You get the feeling of how old these structures are. I really liked that effect. Craig, our president, he went for a more standard landscape type picture, brightened it up so that we can clearly see the bridge, and looks like he didn't crop it at all, just stayed with the picture as is, but brightened up and removed that crane in the background. Diane Nagy took the picture a different way. She made it a more painterly type picture, one of those more artistic effects that you can do. In addition, she cropped off the right to bring the center of attention in right towards the bridge. And it's really nice how all of these various software programs that I've learned about over the last 21 months, you can take them and combine techniques in them to come up with these interesting artistic effects to give yourself something more than just a photograph. Don Paskowitz was the person who originally provided the image for us, and he kept it pretty straight as it was, but he brightened it up and got rid of that crane in the background as well. Here's Don Stenson. He also went for an artistic approach where now it looks like it's a picture on canvas. You can see the texture in the background. He also cropped in a little from the right and changed the tones, the colors of the image a little bit darker, I think to fit in with the age of the subject that we're looking at. This is
Ernie.
This is Ernie, and I guess
Raise your hand, Ernie.
there's not a whole lot more to add other than Ernie did point out he didn't have time to put in the boat to pull the water skiers. Okay, so that's the only thing left out that he didn't do. But I mean, it was clear you've got this big river up here, and that river is sort of calling for something to be in it. In Ernie's mind, it was water skiers. Other people may have thought of something else. Yeah. How could you? Yeah. Okay. Glenn Jones also chose a more straightforward approach, although he liked a much more warm color balance to the image. And he also decided to crop a little bit off the top and, of course, get rid of the crane that was in the background. This is my version. I found the boat that Ernie couldn't find. Okay, and I did it because I felt what this image was calling out for was some point of interest in the foreground to bring attention to our eyes and to lead us into the rest of the image. And so that's why I added the boat. Here's Jim Schock's version. He decided that those floats on the right side, right bank were a distraction. He removed them as well as the crane. He cropped in from the left to give us a tighter focus on the bridge. Okay, and ended up with this version of the image. Here's Neil's version, of course, another warmer rendition of the colors. It plays in real well with the age of the structure that we're looking at. And of course, you got rid of the crane as well and cropped in a little bit on the left and left the people in, okay? And finally, we have Vib's rendition, which is also a warmer rendition than you get from the midday sun. This is more giving it the color of that golden hour from closer towards sunset. It just warms it up and makes it a more inviting image. Okay, so I thought these are the actual examples and in fact screenshots from our last Zoom recording of the images that we got. And I just wanted to give people an idea. That's one of the things that we do in our Zoom meetings. So there are some other activities that our club participates in that I thought I'd point out. One of them traditionally has been the Date Festival. It was canceled last year, and going onto their website, it's not actually kind of clear to me whether it's going to be happening this year or not. If it is, I suspect people will partake in it. What they have is a photography competition. So this is at the Riverside County Fair and National Date Festival. They allow people to pay an entry fee of about $10 and enter your prints into a competition where a judge they hire from the outside reviews all the prints in many different categories and gives out awards. Our club has been entering this competition for, I'd say, at least the last 13 or 14 years. And when I've done the count, we typically end up walking away with club members earning about half of the ribbons that are awarded in the competition. And so it's something we've done very well in, and it's just another venue for you to exhibit your work and to get comments on it from a judge and sometimes to get a ribbon. There are some other things that we've done. It's not clear it's going to happen this year, but the last few years have had an exhibit of our club's pictures where people in the club print up their pictures or do other things with the pictures, and we exhibit them to the community. We allow people to come in and view all that, sample some wine and cheese, and they can buy the pictures if they're interested in it. As I said, I'm not sure it's happening this year, but stay tuned for that. And the final thing I'll close with is where you find us. You find us on our website, which is scshcameraclub.com. This at the bottom of the slide is a picture of the top of that website, where on the website, you'll be able to view pictures that people submit for sharing with our other club members and anyone else who wants to visit the website. You can join the club if you want through the button that's in the upper right-hand corner of the page. And if you want to contact us, it was back a few slides ago. You can email us. Our email is scshcameraclub@gmail.com. Art.
You want to explain where the sponsor up there on the left?
Okay, so when COVID affected everything, it caused some people in the community to sort of rethink their priorities. And you may have noticed a big changeover in the community over the last year and a half. A lot of people have sold houses, new people have bought in. And so several people in our club sold their houses and moved off to other places to be closer to family or other higher priorities in their lives. And so since we were meeting with Zoom, we saw no reason to part ways with people who had been in the club before. Why, since we're meeting over Zoom, why not allow them to continue to meet over Zoom? So what we've done for this year is to say, even though you folks have moved away, if you want to be a sponsor, because hosting over Zoom costs the club money, you can contribute the same as a club member would contribute, and then you can participate in the Zoom meetings just like regular club members can. And so now we have a handful of sponsors who are ex-club members who are no longer living in the community, but they're great friends of ours, and we value having them as a part of our community, and so they participate now by being a sponsor. Sure. Any other questions? Yes. The dues are $20, and we chose that because $20 a year. We chose that because we needed to pay for Zoom and we need to pay for our website, and we're hoping if we continue to have these in-person meetings, assuming the pandemic allows that, we will start providing some snacks to at the meetings to help encourage people and to help us have maybe a little social time during the meetings. And so that's what your money is going to go towards. Any other questions? Well, great. Glad you could all come.